a little bit later than planned because that went over. Let's join Colm Boohig to talk about the Australian Open, which is at the business end of the tournament. Colm, it's time for everybody to tune in because we might have Novak Djokovic versus Rafa Nadal in the final. Get on the bandwagon now, it's not too late.
And we might have crowds to watch them as well, Ger. They're set to return the crowds on Thursday for the semi-finals. So there's been a circuit breaker in Melbourne since Friday night because of an outbreak at a Victoria Holiday Inn. So there was a bizarre scenario on Friday night in Novak Djokovic's match with Taylor Fritz, where halfway through the fourth set, the umpire interrupted the match to read out a formal announcement instructing every member of the audience to leave immediately so that they can get home in time for the curfew, which is 11:59 p.m. This is 11:30 p.m. So the players left the stadium for 7 minutes and returned to play in silence, and it's been in silence ever since then. And it's been a real shame because the crowd have been magnificent. We spoke about this last week on OTB AM about examples of how much the crowd are interacting and kind of the pantomime villain stuff. And all going well within the next 24 hours or so, fans should return in smaller doses. I think it's capped at about just less than 7,500 fans per session, which is fine. I mean, for the first 10 days of the tournament, there's been 98,500 fans through the turnstiles, compared to 650,000 last year. So obviously it's nowhere near the same as it usually is. But for the last 12 months of tennis, it's exceptionally good considering there were no fans at the US Open or the season-ending ATP finals, very few fans at the French Open. This is the first time where it really feels like a Grand Slam. So hopefully, all going well, the fans will come back and they might be able to see Djokovic against Nadal on Sunday in the final, all going well with that.
It was raucous last Friday for Kyrgios against Thiem, and it seemed like it was their one last hurrah before getting kicked out again, the fans.
It was incredible. I wrote about it for OTBSports.com. It was befitting of a Grand Slam final, not a first Friday match. And at one stage, Kyrgios, who was geeing up the crowd between every point and won the first two sets of that match against Thiem, he had to ask the fans to be quiet at one stage because they were just too loud. And it was played in the John Cain Arena. I was actually in that stadium about 7 years ago at the Australian Open watching Kyrgios. And it is raucous. It is unbelievable. It's a general admission stadium, so you can get in with a general admission ticket. And it's like a football match. It's the best way to describe it. It's the easiest comparison, and that's exactly what it is. And that's definitely when it peaked. And there was just some great moments. There was a definitely inebriated fan who was hurling abuse at Rafa Nadal between points, telling him to hurry up, flipping him the bird, and was eventually removed from the stadium, but took ages to be removed. Much to Nadal's amusement, the camera went on him, he was bursting himself laughing. He thought it was hilarious. That was actually during his match against our own Michael Moe, which he won quite comfortably. But the fans have really added to it, to the atmosphere, especially when you're watching it on a screen from the other side of the world. It means the world of a difference. But in the last 5 days, the tournament has still been very good. There's been some incredible upsets, which we'll get onto in a second. But with the fans back, it will just be unbelievable. And hopefully the raucous atmosphere will be able to return to the level it was last Friday.
Okay, so that's the crowds. They've obviously missed some good stuff. They missed that row with Medvedev and the coach. He just started screaming at him from in the middle of the match.
Yeah, well, it was the break between games when they sit down for 90 seconds, and they were fighting in French actually, because Medvedev's fluent in French, and they were fighting about the game because Medvedev was finding it harder than he thought he was going to find it. And then at one stage, the coach just left. He just said, I'm just going to leave. It's just easier if I leave.
He looked like he was banished. Like Medvedev was essentially saying...
No, it was the coach's decision.
Definitely, was it? Okay, I wasn't sure.
He said that, said it afterwards. Yeah, because Medvedev was looking on incredulously as the coach left. Kind of, where are you going? I'm not finished with this fight.
Well, you're not supposed to communicate with your coach, right? You can't... The rule is like you're not allowed to be coached from your box, or nobody in the crowd is supposed to coach you. Is that not like, is that not two-way street? Are you allowed to hurl abuse at random punter that you're obviously getting off on a little bit?
Yeah, they're definitely leaving them off. I mean, that's exactly what happened in the infamous 2018 US Open final between Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka, when Serena was seen to be communicating with her coach, Patrick Machoglu. And that's when the umpire, Carlos Ramos, got involved, and the rest is history. But in this instance, it was allowed. There was this fight. I mean, there was no one else in the stadium, so you could hear it loud and clear. And it was a back and forth, and if you knew your French, you knew exactly what they were saying. Right. And then, lo and behold, the coach leaves.
Okay, look, we've obviously gone over a little bit with Niall Quinn there because there was some amazing stuff coming out at the end of that. So let's fly through these. So that's 15 love. What's 30 love?
Aslan Karatsev, lad. Who? 27-year-old, world number 114. He's come from absolutely nowhere, this guy. He barely had a Wikipedia page last week, and he's gone on to beat the 8th seed Diego Schwartzman, the Canadian hotshot 19-year-old Felix Auger-Aliassime from 2 sets down. And then in the quarterfinal against Grigor Dimitrov, former world number 3, he came from 6-2 down in the first set to win in 4 sets. Now, Dimitrov was 100% injured. He had a back spasm. He couldn't move in a third and fourth set. So he only won 3 games in a third and fourth set. So Karatsev had it easy. And if Dimitrov was fit, there's no way he would have won that match. But the statistics are unbelievable. I mean, this guy had won $618,000 US by this time last week in his total career earnings. And now he's set to earn at least $662,000 just for this 2 weeks' work. It changes his life completely. He's 27. He's not exactly a kid coming through. He's tried to qualify for 9 other Grand Slams. He's never qualified for any Grand Slam. This is his first ever Grand Slam. And in that, Karatsev becomes the first man in the Open era to reach a Grand Slam semi-final on his debut. And he's the lowest ranked player to reach a Grand Slam semi-final since Goran Ivanisevic in 2001 at Wimbledon. And we all know what happened there. So you never know. But Karatsev is now playing everyone's favourite, Novak Djokovic, in the semi-final, who Djokovic admitted afterwards had never seen him play before the Australian Open. Basically didn't know who this guy was. Nobody knew who this guy was. It's an absolutely incredible story. And he seems completely nonplussed by it. He seems like, yeah, this is happening. I'm playing better tennis than everybody else so far. So why wouldn't I be in the semi-final?
Is he basically Seabiscuit? Is that what this is, tennis Seabiscuit?
it's just, I mean, to give you the laziest comparison, it's just David versus Goliath in the semi-final. I mean, there's, like, Karatsev should just not be here. And as I say, if Dimitrov was fit, he would have won that match. But, like, he's breaking all sorts of stats, reaching these last 4. And, like, you know, there'll probably be some sort of mini documentary on this, because just look at the Wikipedia page on this guy. There was nothing there. He had won a handful of ATP matches, not tournaments, matches before this tournament.
Okay. He's playing Djokovic. That's our 40 love. What's the story here?
Well, Djokovic, he's just very angry. He's very irritable and cranky at this Australian Open. So he's come in with an abdominal injury. Loads of players have abdominal injuries. His opponent in the quarterfinal, Alexander Zverev, did as well. That was a really terrible, awful match where there was loads of errors on both sides. Halfway through the third set, Nadal smashed his racket to smithereens in frustration, absolutely obliterated it. So much so that a ball girl had to come on with the pan and brush and sweep up all the debris before play could continue, which Djokovic insisted that would happen. He's very angry. In his post-match interview, he said the amount of injuries suffered by players is basically ridiculous, and it's all because of quarantine. And he's basically far from happy, but he is on course to defend his Australian Open title. And if he goes all the way, he'll have won his 18th Grand Slam title. But this guy he's just not happy with life at the moment.
Is that because he thinks he's going to get beaten?
Well, he said repeatedly that if this was any other tournament, i.e. if it wasn't the Grand Slam, he wouldn't be playing because he's just not fit enough. But I think Zverev was hinting afterwards in the match, after the match, was that, well, look, as you can see, there's kind of nothing wrong with either of us really, because we were able to play this back and forth, very physical encounter. And you could argue that Djokovic wouldn't have been able to smash his racket with such vitriol if he was injured. So it seems to be more of a mental thing, but he's extremely frustrated with the conditions that the players have to go through. And it culminated in his post-match interview where he said as much. He said players, and in his post-match press conference, he said players will not want to play the season if they have to continuously quarantine and travel around the world. And actually, that's the one thing that his best buddy Nick Kyrgios agrees with. Kyrgios said it after his match against Thiem. He said he has absolutely no interest in traveling around the world, quarantining, playing in empty stadiums. It's not for him.
Okay, well, let's maybe Djokovic could take the year off and everybody else can win some Grand Slams. What a disaster that would be for the world of tennis. Nadal and Tsitsipas are on court at the moment. They're only in the first game, so we'll keep you up to date on that on OTBSports.com across the rest of the day. Let's talk Serena. She's on the verge of 24. What's the crack? It's a rematch against Osaka. Yeah,
rematch from the, as I mentioned there, the US Open final 2.5 years ago, which Osaka won. Osaka has a 2-1 head-to-head record against Serena, but Serena's playing unbelievably well. I mean, the last time we spoke, we were speculating, would she get to the latter stages? Would she win on the verge of 40 years of age? But since then, her form has just skyrocketed. Her defence and movement is the best it's been in years, which she herself is delighted with. She beat Simona Halep in the quarterfinal pretty easily, 6-3, 6-3. It was a closer match than the scoreline suggested, but overall, it was kind of standard fare for Serena, who lost to Halep at the 2019 Wimbledon final, got annihilated by Halep actually, but sought her revenge and got it. This time around, then she beat Arnia Sabalenka in the last 16, which was a real tough match on paper. So Serena's playing excellently well. Osaka saved 2 match points against last year's finalist Garbine Muguruza in the 4th round. That was an incredible comeback. She was 5-3 down in the final set, and she won basically every other game for the rest of that match. Won at 7-5 in that final set. Got through a quarter-final with ease, and now plays Serena. I would venture that Osaka will win that match. I'd say she will. She's the better player than Serena. But that's the real final now, because the shock overnight was home favourite and world number 1 Ash Barty got eliminated against Caroline Mukova, who would play Jen Brady in the other semi-final. And that really is the other semi-final in all senses of the word. Whoever wins between Osaka and Serena, like, they are nailed on to win this title. And so we are, Serena is 2 matches away from getting that record, but Osaka is 2 matches away from winning her 4th Grand Slam title already.
Yeah, okay. Colm, good stuff. Thanks a million for that. Plenty for us to keep an eye on over the next few days in the Australian Open, and more updates, as I said, on otbsports.com and, of course, on the sports bulletins right across our network.